Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. It is December 1st, the last day, first day, the last day of the month. It's hard to believe that 2022 has flown by so quickly. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter your questions into the Zoom chat window. For those watching on Facebook, if you have any questions, put them in the comment field. We are monitoring both feeds. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Also, if you'd like to connect with other people who are on the call today, this is a great opportunity for you to put in your contact information and then reach out to everybody else who's on the call today so that you can expand your LinkedIn connections, because you never know how somebody else can help you. We are going to have time to review one or two resumes today live online. If you'd like to submit your resume, you can do so via the chat window. Be sure to send it to Jeff Morris with the host, not the co-host. Send it to host. But if you do send it, please be sure to delete your header information, because the information is going to be on Facebook and on YouTube as long as electrons keep floating around this earth. So, if you want to remove that kind of personal information, you're welcome to do so. Just give us the body of your resume. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. Yep, we just celebrated our 14th birthday last week. So it was a website created to help those who were unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. So that's coming up. We're coming up on, well, over 15 years now. The group's been around since the late 1990s. At the end of this program, I'll tell you about our upcoming program that we have scheduled for tomorrow morning. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT Crew. For more information, you can go to dallaspitcrew.com. And let me just remind you of this. Your resume, your LinkedIn profile will not get you a job. It only gets you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So don't wait. As the PIT Crew likes to say, practice early, practice often. Reach out to them, get some help for a scheduled interview, practice interview. All right, well, here's our agenda today. Let me flip presentations here. Oops, I did not change things correctly. Give me a second here. Here we go. All right, so our agenda, we're going to start, we're going to talk a little bit about the ATS system. Then we're going to talk about a one-page bio. We're then going to talk about a master resume. Then we'll talk about the key components of a resume. And then if anybody wants to submit their resume, we'll be glad to take a look at it live online. All right, so here we got some advice from a expert recruiter. This is from Sarah Jacobs, who's a manager of business development. She's with the Thomas Edwards Group, which is a local rep firm here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I know they're going to be expanding to the Austin area very, very soon. So number one, never include your home address and do not include any pictures on your resume. Your address is not necessary on your resume. City, state, and zip, yes, but not your street address, not important. Number two, create a professionally named Gmail account for your job search. Sarah Loves Kitty Cats at gmail.com is not a professional sounding email account unless you happen to own a cat business, a cat sitting business. Okay. You want to be John Smith PMP. If you're a project manager, John Smith PMP at gmail.com. If you have an AOL account, that tells people you're OLD. Okay, so you want to have a Gmail. I mean, that's what everybody's using nowadays. If you can get a Gmail, Rocket Mail, There's iCloud. I mean, some of the Apple ones are okay, but have an up-to-date email account. Even if you have a Yahoo account, I've had my Yahoo account now for almost 18, 19 years. That tells people you're in your 50s and 60s, okay? So that's not even recommended. So Gmail is pretty generic. There's some other services out there, but you want to make sure it's done. Also, be sure to check your voicemail box. Have a professional outgoing message, and be sure to clean it out often. Recruiters, what does a recruiter want to do when they find you on LinkedIn or they see your resume? They're going to pick up the phone and call you. That's what they're going to do first. They don't want to send you an email. They don't want to send you an email. They want to pick up the phone and call you. And when they call you, if your voicemail message box is full, they're done. Your resume is in the trash. They're not going to try to call you again. Okay, because that tells people you're unorganized. All right, number 3, always include the entire tenure at one company on the same line as the name of the company. List out progressive positions with each title underneath. We're going to talk about that. I'll show you our example on how we do that in just a second. But the reason behind this is you want to show that you have some longevity at a company. I worked at a company for 13 years. I had 6 different job titles over those 13 years. So if I put all 6 of those job titles with the dates all the way to the very justified right, it would have made it look like I was job hopping every couple years. Instead of doing it this way, you show that you're only staying at a position, that you stayed at a company for a long time and you progressed up through the ranks there. 4th point, use a chronological resume. Nobody likes a functional resume. You may have some professional resume writers or some people encourage you to do that. If you're changing fields, if you're changing something else, people don't want a functional resume. A lot of resume readers will just throw it away as soon as they see it because they want to be able to, in their mind, figure out what you've done in what order. All right. So just be aware of that. And when you have accomplishments, they want to know where you had those accomplishments at. Where on a functional resume, you list all your accomplishments and then you list your, where you worked, but people can't associate A to B they can't associate anything. All right, next thing is you want to be sure to focus on hard skills, industry expertise, and some soft skills. What are hard skills? What are soft skills? Google them. I've found very recently the top 10 soft skills that recruiters are looking for, the top 10 hard skills that recruiters are looking for. Google that, make sure those are in your profile. Number 2, be sure to list all ERP, business intelligence, and other software systems on your resume. Elaborate on your Excel skills. Let's say if everybody's got some basic skills, but if you understand pivot tables and whatever other kind of things that you can do with Microsoft, if you've got some special skills, be sure to list those. Many recruiters and an ATS system search for specific system experience. So, I worked for a system called Chess, which was part of IBM's, it was part of Boeing's system to build airplanes. So I understand what their system is and how multi-level bill of materials by using their system. I want to make sure that that system is listed on my resume. Be sure to include a brief summary, but not an objective. Okay, an objective is what you're looking to do. People don't care what you're looking to do. Recruiters, hiring companies, they need somebody to fit a bill. They want to know a quick summary as far as what it is you do, how you can help them. The last point she has on here is do not use I, me, and why, my statements. On your resume, it's always written in third person. When you do your LinkedIn profile, you can make it more friendly and you can do it in first person. Talk about, my name is so-and-so. I do this, I do that. You can do that on LinkedIn, but don't do that on your resume. All right, so let's talk about a resume versus a one-page bio for a second. I think a one-page bio is an extremely effective tool. A resume says you're looking for a job. When you send out a resume, help me, I'm trying to find a job. When you send a resume, to a networking contact. Help me, I'm looking for a job. When you send a bio, you're sending a higher level document, just sort of says who you are, what you do, and how you can help people, what you've done at other companies in the past, a brief history of where you've worked at. A resume focuses on work details and credentials. A bio focuses on major accomplishments and your expertise. Like we said, a resume is primarily a job search tool. A bio is a multi-purpose tool. A week from Friday, not tomorrow, but next Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting, we're going to do a presentation on a one-page bio. Here are a couple examples of one-page bios. I'm going to put both of them in the chat window here in just a second. Give me a second, I'll get that done. So here's one example. You have your picture. Well, bio has a picture. A resume never has a picture. You're going to put, you know, 4 or 5 things as far as what you're good at, a brief statement about your background, your professional biography, maybe list some of the companies you worked at and dates. List your education. You're going to be sure to list your contact information, very, very important. And then some professional achievements and successes. There's lots of different formats out there, lots of different ways. Here's a different looking format. This one's vertical, horizontal instead of vertical, or vertical versus horizontal. You know, whatever works for you. Now, the difference between this profile, this one, and the one we saw before is that this one happens to list target functions and target companies. Target functions are okay on any bio, but target companies you have to be very, very careful with. If you're sending a bio or you think your bio is going to be going to a prospective employer, you've got to make sure that their company is the first company listed on here for target companies. This would be fine for friends and family, or if you're meeting somebody at Starbucks, just a networking thing, just to meet somebody, you know, another job seeker or somebody to make some connections. It'd be okay to list target companies here. My preference is you email, you know, you'll send this bio out. And then what I would do is not put target companies on here, but I would, when you attach your bio in the email, I would list, here are my target companies. So that way, when you're sending it out to different people, at least they have an idea of who you're talking to. One-page bios. There's a great book out here. I highly recommend it. I should get commission on doing this when I talk about this, because I mention this every presentation. Minna Brown and Paula Asanoff wrote this book called Be Sharp. You can get it on Amazon for like 17 bucks. Be sure to get the second edition, because the second edition, they expand the whole second half of the book to talk about bios. They've got like 30 different examples in the back of the book, what they look like, what should be included on it. Like I said, Minna, who you see her bio here, she's an executive coach, an author, a public speaker. So this is more of an ad slick for her versus a traditional bio. Most bios wouldn't have all this color on it. But once again, this bio is perfectly acceptable, because if you're giving talks, you're doing stuff like that, this would definitely work to tell people who you are and what you do. So she's going to be our speaker. Minna Brown will be our speaker a week from Friday, and that is on the 9th of December, 9:30 in the morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, if you'd like to hear her presentation. Let me load up. Let's see here. First of all, let me download. I got one resume here, so let me download that resume. Give me just a second here. I will save that resume that you sent in, and then let me send you out, everybody, the 2 bios that we've got. So the 2 bios that I've just attached in the chat window, those are the 2 bios that I showed you examples of. If for some reason you are having problems downloading those, I'll give you an email address at the end of this presentation where you can email me and I'll send you those documents, all the documents that we're going to share today. All right, let's talk about a master resume. This, I think, is something that everybody needs to have to make your job search easy. A master resume, 10, 15 pages long. It has everything you've ever done since high school, and include any high schools if they were relevant internships or things that you did that may help. Include it all. Who your supervisors were, addresses of the company, just all the details, 8 or 10 bullet points underneath each one of things that you accomplished under each job. All your computer programs that you would have used, any software skills, certifications, patents, books that you wrote, anything, put all this stuff on here. Then what you do is when you see a job description, nobody wants to see your master resume. Okay, it's there for you. The only person who would want to see your master resume may be the government, if you're applying for a government job or an academic job. But if it's not government or academic, they don't want to see a 10 or 15 page resume. They want to see a 1, 2, or 3 page at the most resume. Yes, it's okay to go 3 pages if it's relevant experience. So what you do is you take that job description, you take your master resume, you save it as whatever your naming convention is to save it on your computer. And then you start deleting everything off the master resume that's not in the job description. You've done a lot of really great things over the years, and you can talk about those, but if they don't ask about it in the job description, don't put it on your resume. Here's why. There's a good chance that the first person, well, first of all, let's talk about if you're submitting something online. The computer has all these keywords from the job description that they're looking to fill. And if your resume doesn't match it, you're not going to get the phone call. If resumes are being viewed by somebody, there's a good chance that that person may be a 22-year-old recent college graduate who's brand new in the HR department, who's been told, hey, go find me 10 people who fit this job description. And they have no idea what the job description, what that person even does. They just know the words off the job description. They're trying to find 10 people who match what's on the job description. Make it easy for the reviewer of your resume to match up that, yes, you can solve the problems that they're having. Remember, you're a problem solver. The company has a problem. That's why they're hiring somebody to solve their problem. What kind of problems do you solve? All right, so let's talk about some characteristics of good resumes. The goal is to make sure the ATS system and the job screeners determine that you're a good match, okay? So number one, the first thing we want to talk about is formatting, okay? You want to make sure your resume is 1, 2, 3 pages max, that you're using the right text, 1-inch borders. We'll talk more about that in just a second. The overall length, we're going to talk about what the overall length would be. And then the other thing is, how many years do you put on a resume? So some of us, I'm in my 60s now. I've got 35 years of experience on a resume. People don't want to see all that. They don't care what I did back in the 1980s. But there are some options of different ways you can handle it. So here are 3 different options. And if you would, in the chat window, give me an A, B, or C. What do you think you should do? Show all of your experience, just show the most recent 10 to 15 years of your experience, or show details about the most recent 10 to 15 years, plus a section called prior relevant experience. So let me know what you think. Put in the chat window. I got a C, C, B, C, C, C. Anybody else? Those on Facebook, if you want to put the ABC in the comment field, you're welcome to do so. All right, well, most people pick C, and we got a couple people who put B. All 3 of these are okay? Sometimes you do need to show all your experience. Like I said, for A, if you're going to the government or an academic job, they want to see everything you've done. B's okay, but here's the issue I have with B. I think if you've been doing this for quite a while, if you've been out looking for, if you've been in the job, if you have 20 plus years of experience, unless those first couple jobs or the oldest jobs mean absolutely nothing, and you will never talk about them in an interview, you don't have to put them on there. But the reason I like C and I like prior relevant experience is that you may have done something at a job past 10 or 15 years ago, And all you have to do is list, prior relevant experience, list the name of the company, the job title, and that's it. You don't have to put any dates down, just company name and job title. What that does is that gives you permission to be able to talk about those things during an interview, because something may come up and you may go say, well, when I worked at ABC company, I was responsible for doing blah, blah, blah. And the interviewer is going, wait, the ABC, I don't see ABC company on your resume. What are you talking about? So by putting that prior relevant experience, I think that gives you the opportunity and gives you the right to be able to mention anything. It allows you to talk about anything in your job experience by doing that, because you never know what's going to come up in an interview. All right, fonts for your resume. We're formatting here. I like these fonts, and they're in no particular order: Arial, Calibri, Tacoma, and Helvetica. Now, what sets these fonts apart from these fonts, which are okay? Some people like Times New Roman, Garamond, Calibri. You don't want any fancy fonts, no wingdings, no anything like that. I like the first 4 fonts because they're easy to read. It's very clean. If you look at Times New Roman, Garamond, and Calibri, they've got serifs on it, which is the little, the T's got a little thing on it. Look at the Tacoma T versus the Times New Roman T. When you have a whole body of text, it's easier to read those fonts. Font sizes here, 10 to 12 points. Keep everything so people can read it. No 8-point font, no 9-point fonts. If you go, oh, my resume's 3 pages, I need to get to 2 pages, I'll just shrink everything down a size. Don't do that. Okay, I'm old. If I have to read something, I have to pull my glasses out. So make it easy for anybody to be able to read your resume. At one point, my daughter had she put together a business card for herself, but the fonts were so small, I couldn't read it. I said, Alex, you got to make the font a little bit bigger. No, Dad, that's okay. It'll be just fine. Okay. Young people don't think about this, but make it easy for people to read it. All right. No fancy fonts, no margins. So your margins, you want 1-inch top, bottom, and left and right margins, because if they print out your resume, they want room. You want room for them to be able to write on it. Plus, when you go text to text on a full page, text the full margins on a page, it's overwhelming. It is too much. And some people may just toss it because they're going, there's not enough white space. White space is good. Bullets are okay. You can bold some things. You can maybe underline some things. I'm not a fan of italics, shadows, or graphics. The bullets, if you use bullets, the bullets that you see here on this page, I would not use any bullets like wingdings, little check marks, or little houses, or little telephones, or any of that kind of stuff. Just use a plain bullet. The reason being is that if you're submitting this online to an ATS system, there are well over 100 different types of ATS systems out there. Most ATS systems, every ATS system handles different things. Some may see that, a check mark or something and just throw that whole line out. So you've got to make sure you get down to the lowest common denominator. Do not use any text boxes, no headers, and no templates, because once again, many ATS systems can't handle that. Tony Bashera, who's the head of Babbage & Associates, talks about he got this great resume. Somebody submitted a resume to their system, and he went, this is perfect, but he had no contact information because the entire header section disappeared because they put it in their header field. So no headers, no footers, no text boxes. You want to make sure that all the text. Jane just says, what about tables? No tables. Some systems can't handle tables. So if you're going to do something, and I'll show you when we get to our sample resume, just put in the word tab, tab, get the next one in, tab, tab, and then you can line them up using the tab features, but don't use a table. All right. How do you fill a gap on a resume? I haven't worked for the last 2 years. I haven't worked for the last 3 years. I was taking care of a loved one, taking care of a family member. You can do something like that. You can put that on there. You can do community leadership if you've done some volunteering work, if continue education. I went back to get my MBA. So, I would put down, the reason I haven't worked the last 3 years is because, I'm continue education, received the MBA at UTD, and list that on there, because that way it would tell somebody and it fills a gap and you can put in those couple years that you took to do it. You always can add a few bullet points to describe your work, such as consulting work that you've done, even if it's pro bono, if you've been helping a nonprofit out, and we'll show you an example here in just a second on how you can do that. If you've done any volunteer work, any leadership. I spent probably 6 months working on a youth event. I was in charge of all the logistics for a youth event. So it was a volunteer role, and I was spending 40 hours a week just preparing for this, and about 120, well, I don't know. I slept 4 or 5 hours during the event because, being involved there from, 8 in the morning or 5 or 6 in the morning till midnight every night, taking care of events, things that had to happen. But, you can list that as a volunteer work and leadership and the roles that you did with some bullet points. Any certifications that you've received while you're continuing education, you can add. So here's an example here. This is somebody put down community leadership and consulting. She serves as a panelist and a coach for the Dallas Practice Interview Team, the PIT crew, to help job seekers with their interview skills. Also provided consulting services to a local nonprofit. It happened to be to a church, but didn't want to use the church, the name of the church, because you don't want to get discriminated against. So just a local nonprofit organization that's very generic to help prepare and conduct job interviews and how to evaluate candidates. So you can always do something like that to fill a gap. All right, so let's talk about the key components of a resume. Every resume has to have the following: a header, a summary. Key accomplishments is an optional area. Professional experience, prior relevant experience, and that's optional. That's up to you if you want to put that in. Education and software skills. Okay, you want to be sure to list all those points. So let's talk about the header. The header should be your name, the name you like to be called. I go by Jeff Morris, as you see in the name here on my tag. My real name is Jeffrey, Jeffrey, but I go by Jeff. So on my resume, I want to be called Jeff. I'm going to put down Jeff. If you have an unusual sounding name, a hard to pronounce name, you may want to phonetically spell it out. In parentheses after your name, spell out the phonetic spelling. Make it easy for somebody so they can reach out and go, so they'll know how to pronounce your name. Phone number, city, state, zip, your email address, your LinkedIn address. No physical address is needed, but you do want your LinkedIn profile because people are going to look at your LinkedIn profile. There's lots of times there could be a lot of John Smith who are out there, but there's not going to show which John Smith is this on LinkedIn. So tell them where your LinkedIn, give them your LinkedIn profile. Be sure that your email address and your LinkedIn profile, you remove the hyperlink. When you type those in Microsoft Word, they automatically turn to blue and they get underlined. Some ATS systems don't like that. So I recommend you can do a right click and put on there remove hyperlink so that those don't appear as hyperlinks. They just plain text fields. Somebody can highlight it, copy and paste it into a URL field if they need to. But that's, keep it really simple. All right, your summary and profile. A summary is not an objective. 3 lines at the max, I recommend. Anything over 4 lines max, I recommend 3 lines. Cut it down to 3 lines. Telling somebody what it is you do that meets the job description, the requirements of the job description. You don't need to write down summary. Put down the job title. If you're applying for a business analyst, put down business analyst. If you're applying for a customer service rep, put down customer service rep. Now, this is as long as you've done this in the past. If you've never had that role, you've got to come up with something just a little bit different to put there. All right. And then areas of expertise. I recommend 9. So Jane, you talked about what about tables? This is where a lot of people go put a table in to make it format all nice and pretty. You don't want to use a table, but you can just put in agile methodologies, tab, Scrum, tab. Sometimes you may need 3 tabs, requirement gatherings, and then you can just sort of line everything up by using the tab feature. Now, if I'm going to interview you, I'm going to ask, what are your top 3 areas of expertise? You listed 9. Tell me what your top 3 are. You better tell me either the top 3 here on the top of the list, or they're the top 3 on the left-hand side, okay? If you go and tell me it's improving processes, developing test plans, and customer-facing roles, that you didn't make it the most important thing on there. So make sure that these things, number one, these should be coming from the job description and from your resume. They should be found on your resume also, but make sure they're in one of these 2 places as your most important. As an interviewer, that's a question I will always ask a candidate. All right, here's an optional section, key accomplishments. If you're in sales, yes, we're all in sales, the old joke that you're selling yourself right now. But if you're truly a salesperson and you're selling product for a company, you may want to list some key accomplishments. But the key here is it's fine to do this, but I want to know what company you did these for. So if you put those here, you need to also list them down in your experience section underneath the company that you did this for. So I can get some sense of, you did this at this company. It will give me a better understanding of who you are, okay? Your professional experience, okay? Number 1, you want to make sure it's chronological, okay? We've talked about chronological, not functional, very, very important. Number 2, you want to be sure to use parallel verbs. And what do I mean by parallel verbs? If you're currently working at a company, as you see these ones that are underlined in red, those are in present tense. Company B, all of those lines are in past tense because those are things you used to do because you used to work at that company. There are recruiters out there who will throw your resume out because you had the wrong tense listed. Now, it is okay to put a past tense in a current job because it could have been something you did last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. But if it's something you currently do, make sure it's in current tense. Make sure everything in past companies are all past tense. Be sure to include, I think you should include a 1-line description of the company because it really helps out people to know what the company is. Well, I don't know what company A does, but if you go and tell me it's a Fortune 500 software firm developing software for the real estate industry, that gives me an idea what's out there. There are over 1 million companies out there. I've been leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group now for the last 14, 15 years. Every week, somebody will go and mention a company that I have never heard of. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. So add that 1-line description, it will help. Even if it's, you did it for Facebook. Everybody knows what Facebook is. You did it for IBM, you did it for EDS. Yeah, we all know what EDS does. Put a 1-line sentence on there just to make it easy for the recruiter because you never know what the recruiter will or will not know. You want to be sure to limit the number of bullet points per job. I think, 4, 5, 6 at the most maybe. And then as you go back, maybe 5, then maybe 4, then maybe 3 as you go back to fewer and fewer jobs. And be sure to focus on results. Very important. You do not want your job description to read like, you don't want your resume to read like a job description, okay? That doesn't tell me what you've accomplished. That only tells me what you were supposed to do. I don't know if you did it. All right, so 5 to 6 bullet points per job. Bullet points have to focus on results, and bullet points should not sound like a job description. Those are all 3 things I just talked about. So the last bullet point there, save the company $5,000 by evaluating risk related to implementation, testing, and user manuals. Okay, now the one above it, facilitated monthly meetings with clients to document requirements and explore solutions. That's your job description. That doesn't tell me what kind of accomplishments you have. So there's an easy little game we like to play It tells you on what to do. And what I like to do is called the so what game. So if you go through and you read, so here's an original statement, guided the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist and managed film production and publishing. So what? Well, I increased my business opportunities, which led to 10 new commissions for my client. Oh, okay. Well, let's rewrite your bullet point to say that you increased business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for my client based on developing a full social media and PR strategy. So here is where you're telling results. Every bullet point you have needs to have a result. Alexandra says, does the count on your bullet points include your key accomplishments? As long as your key accomplishments have results, that's the whole key, I think. I mean, if I understand this right, if you're in sales and you had a key accomplishment area, you need to bring that bullet point down underneath that and include that also.
Right. And one of the things you've always talked about, or you've mentioned multiple times, is moving those key accomplishments to the job that it fell under in order to save space to make room for other things. So I assumed that was.
Well, it's not necessarily are you in sales?
My last job was, I was in inside sales.
So in sales, if you're outside sales, whatever, doing stuff like that, yeah, you can list 1 or 2 key accomplishments if you want it. But personally, if you put that on there, the first question, well, not the first, but one of the questions I'm going to have for you during the interview is, so you have this accomplishment here, where did you do that at? So by putting it in underneath one of the jobs you did, it'll stand out. Because if it already stands out because of the number, numbers make your eye attract to a text field. And I'll show you that in just a second. So I believe you should put your accomplishments underneath the job that you're applying to, because it'll make a little bit more sense. We talked earlier about what do you do when you have multiple roles at one company. Sarah mentioned this. Here's how she likes to see it formatted. So what you're going to do here is you're going to have one date for the entire company. Company B, city, state, and you're going to list the dates right justified. You're going to have a one-line statement underneath there, small business information technology firm, tell me what it is you did for that company. Then what's going to happen is for each of your jobs that you did there, business analyst and system engineer, you're going to put that date in parentheses right next to the job title. This way, this tells me you worked at a company for 4 years. And you didn't, if you put those dates out to the right, the ones that are circled out to the right, I wouldn't have known that. I would have thought, oh, you're only there for 2 years, you're only there for 2 years. Wait a second, why does this date overlap this other date? It would have gotten very confusing. So this is I think the best way to show longevity to company and multiple roles at one company. How do you handle companies that change names? All of our companies have changed names. I have one company that's changed 4 times while I worked there. Very, very confusing. So what do you do? So option 1 is give the current name of the company followed by the old name. XYZ company, formerly ABC company. Second example is give the old name of the company first, possibly with the date of the M&A. ABC company acquired by XYZ company in 2008. 2 options. There was a gentleman who was with us a couple of years ago. He worked for a company I'd never heard of. And I said, well, what did that company do? Oh, what used to be called Campbell Soup. Well, everyone here on the call knows what Campbell Soup is. We all know that name. I told him, you put Campbell Soup and then you put acquired by XYZ company, because we all know what Campbell Soup is, what it does, and what it could. So if you work for a major company, use that main name first. All right, education and software skills. This is at the bottom of your resume, bottom of page 1, bottom of page 2. You want to list your education, you want to list your degree, the major you had, the school, and the city and state. You don't have to list when you graduated. Remember, your resume, you want people to call you. You don't want to give them a reason to say, yeah, I got my degree in 1956. Okay, you just want to list that you got the degree, because some people, some job requirements require that you have a certain education. And then your software skills. List the software skills that you're good at. So, Microsoft Office. Now, if you're a CFO, you don't need to list that you have Excel skills, because if you don't have Excel skills, either you got fired from your last job as a CFO or you weren't a very good CFO. All right. If you're an admin, I know you probably have Word skills, Outlook skills, PowerPoint skills, but I may not know you have project skills. I may not know you have Microsoft Access or Visual Studio skills. So any special skills, any special business intelligent programs that you used, any software that you use, Salesforce, any of those kinds of programs, list those on there, because especially if they're in the job description, list them on your resume. So if they were to list Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Outlook on a job description, put it on your resume, because this is another keyword match for the ATS system or the reviewer to go, yep, you've got these same skills. What if you don't have a degree? You want to write something like this. You just need to put down the name of the school, the city, the state, dash, the major or the area of concentration, and in parentheses, put the number of hours you have on there. You also can put on there, after the number of hours you currently have, you could put, expected to graduate in 2023 or 2024, whatever it is, to let them know that you're still, taking night classes or whatever, going back to school. So let's take a look at a resume. So or in a job description, one of the things I recommend is grab yourself a yellow highlighter, okay? Take that job description, print it out so you can mark it up, and go through and highlight what you think are the important words. What do you think is the most important things on that resume, on that job description? And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that those same words are on your resume. So they're looking for a business analyst. Oh, okay. Well, I've been a business analyst in the past. So I'm going to put business analyst as my job title. And I've made sure that I'm an innovative. I'm using an adjective to start out my summary, business analyst again. So I'm using it. So that means it's going to match a couple times on there. Business requirements. I'm going to make sure that that pops on here. How to improve processes. I'm going to make that shows up as one of my areas of expertise. That I'm cross-functional. I deal with cross-functional teams, making sure the same words show up on both things. Agile, Scrum, Visual Studio, making sure that the keywords show up. Multiple sources, user manuals. Apparently that's sort of important because it shows up 2 different times on the job description. You want to make sure it shows up on your resume. If you can use those keywords at least once and possibly twice, it will make things more effective. Business, flow charts, process flow charts, user interface. Those will all give you ways to make your profile much more compatible. All right, so let's remember, here's some very, very important things. Number one, keywords are very, very important. All right, this is all about a keyword match. If you're applying online for a job, it's all about matching the job description. When you fill out an application online, you have less than a 2% chance of someone reaching out to you. But if you have enough keywords on there, you're going to pop up and you possibly will get the phone call. If you have a personal contact at the company, you can get your resume to somebody in the company, you can get your resume to HR or the hiring manager, that 2% number goes up to 50%. Remember, resumes are scanned. They're not read. A reviewer, the initial reviewer, is just scanning through a pile of resumes. They don't print them out anymore. They just look at them on the computer screen and they go, yes, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes, no. As soon as they get 10 yeses that they like, they'll go back and then they may go back and read them. The hiring manager will read your resume usually. The initial reviewer will just scan it, okay? As I mentioned before, a resume will not get you a job, it'll only get you a phone call, okay? So your resume is not the end all. If you're not getting phone calls, you probably need to change your resume. Think about your resume as a little bit like a fishing hook. It's like the bait on a fishing hook. You're out there dangling this thing hoping that someone will call you because they see something on there that they like. If you're not getting any phone calls, you maybe need to change your resume up some to try to see if it helps. And that includes the same words on your LinkedIn profile. If you're not getting phone calls, you need to modify your LinkedIn profile. And then once again, you never know why they called. So you want to be sure to ask them, hey, thank you very much for calling. So what was it on my resume or my LinkedIn profile that made you reach out? It could be something on your second page, something you did 15 years ago. And they go, I want to know more about this. We need somebody who can do that skill. So just remember, you never ever know what it is that they're really, really looking for. So let me put in the chat window here our sample resume. Let's see here. We'll put our sample resume in there. I'm going to put a couple T cover letters. So, you know, some people read cover letters, some people don't read cover letters. I think there are a couple different examples. And if you don't know what a T cover letter is, when you open this up, you'll be able to, you'll understand what it is. And then the other document I also want to give you are some action verbs, 185 powerful action verbs that will make your resume stand out. So it's a good document because I believe you should start out your bullet points with an action verb, get people excited about what's going on, you know, so that's on there. So we actually have a resume. So let's stop sharing for just a second here. I'm going to stop this and we're going to go take a look at a resume. Let me call it up. Give me a second here. I got to move some stuff around on my screen. Let's see here. Going to view page width. And now let me share it with you all. So I want to thank this person for sending in their resume. Dynamic, I love you started out with a action verb. Bilingual, if you speak more than one language. I mean, speaking Texan and speaking English are those are two different languages, but I wouldn't put that on a resume. But, you know, if you've got other languages that you speak, be sure to include that, always great. I would see, could you cut this down to, could this be cut down to 3 lines somehow? And maybe this is your master resume so that you're putting more stuff on here, then you delete things that aren't as important. But more than 3 or 4 lines, people are not going to read it. It's a bit much. Also, I think I would left justify everything. I would make sure that all this is left justified because that'll be, that's what people are used to seeing. They're not used to seeing this centered on a resume. Skills, exceptional, strong communication skills. I think everybody has that, experience analyzing and preparing reports. All right, so once again, these sort of read like these are things that you should be doing. I would maybe put down a few bullet points, you know, strong communication skills, strong interpersonal skills, you know, analyzing reports, you know, I would come up with maybe 6 or 9 bullet words, maybe that would be a little bit more effective than this. I mean, because all this doesn't tell me, this is what everybody should have to do, okay? This doesn't tell me enough to want to pick up the phone and call you, okay? I'm going to look for these things down here in your job description. So here's a good point. People talk about, should I put months on there or not? That's up to you. I don't think on a resume you need to do that. Now, in this case, she's showing that she's been there for the most part all of 2019. If you only were there from December of 2019 to present, by putting just 2019, it makes you look like you've been there for a couple of years. So just, I don't think you need to have months on there. especially when you come down here a little bit farther and you see this, I think you can just put 2020 to 2021. I think that's all you need to do on here. So let's see here, Director, Core and Spanish Program Attitude. Is this Director, and you're the Director of Core and Spanish Programs. So
Yes,
I would
that's right.
maybe, instead of a comma here, I would maybe use either a dash or in parentheses, put down what you were the director of. You know, I think a dash would be better than a comma. Attitudes and Attire, Dallas, Texas. So this is something you may want to flip around. In our sample resume, we put the title of the company first, or the name of the company first, on the same line as the date. And then we list the job title along with what it is you did underneath here. So you may want to consider flipping it. And you may want to put one line underneath Attitudes and Attire, telling me what that is. Now, I think you do here.
It's
Well,
in a nonprofit.
yeah, I mean, just to say it's a nonprofit organization helping women. I think it's a women's organization, right?
Correct.
Right. So a nonprofit organization helping women getting back in the job search through helping with their attitude and attire, providing that kind. Give us a line that tells what it is you did, and it was a nonprofit.
Okay.
You know, this right here, this should be all right. So you expand it. Hopefully down here, we talk about how you expanded something. So you built the agency's program, serving over 100 women in 5 months. Great. So you've given me some details. You led focus groups, resulting in what? Give us result, resulting in modifying the program. Okay. Implement outreach, resulting in 15% growth. Wonderful. Shifted the entire program to Zoom, Teams, and WebEx platforms. Okay. Hopefully you have all three. And these should be things that people put on their LinkedIn on their computer knowledge. Be sure to put it in your stuff at the bottom, just like you were adding Salesforce or something else. Be sure to add these things if you've used them down in your skills section at the very bottom in your software skills. So good. I mean, you have some really good deals, like 33-day workshops. Perfect. Really, really good details here. Once again, I would probably flip the name of the company up with one line as far as what it is they do. Obviously, it looks like it's another nonprofit.
It's the leadership instruction.
Right. Leadership, building a leadership development program. Facilitate one-on-one coaching sessions, frontline. This extra little line here,
Mhm.
I don't know. I think I would do away with that line here. If you're going to put a space, I would put a space, like underneath the name of the company or something. I'm not sure that space, or maybe make the space smaller if you could.
Okay.
Develop continuing education, learning, correct, developed. All right, DE&I.
Mhm.
I don't know what that means.
Diversity,
Oh.
equity, and inclusion.
Right. So for anybody who's using abbreviations,
Okay.
spell that out the first time, and then in parentheses you can put DE&I, and then the next time you can just say DE&I, because
Okay.
now I know what that is. So some people who may not be familiar with that term, put it in there. Also, the reason you want to do that is you now have put in as another keyword, you've added those 3 words in as keywords that will also give you, because you don't know what people are going to be searching for.
Okay.
They may include inclusion, but that you don't have inclusion listed anywhere here.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So spell it out the first time you use any type of abbreviation.
Okay.
You think about this. I see every once in a while DMA. Okay, well, that's the Dallas Museum of Art. It's also the Dallas Medical Society. So
Okay.
yeah,
Got it.
all those kinds of things out, get you a little extra keywords. And you have room here, because there's room here. Now there's no period here.
Oh.
So you got periods here, and I mean none.
Okay.
Check your tenses real quick here. Led, built, led, implemented, developed. Great. I love you started out with action verbs, which is really, really good. All right, the Director of Talent Management at KMJJ Enterprises. So I'd love to know what that is. So give me a
Okay.
little line as far as what that company does.
Yes, recruiting and staffing.
Is that
I
what it
see
is?
what you're
Okay.
saying. Mhm.
All right. Use Boolean searches. Great. I love the word because lots of people don't know what that means, but if you don't know what a Boolean search is, it's really a valuable way to find people.
Yeah.
Can you give me a result? Can you play the so what game and say, all right, well, I did this. So what did it do? I mean, you built valid career paths for candidates. Did you place one candidate every week? Did you,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking for somebody who can solve a problem. And if you tell me what kind of problems you've solved, I'll go, I need you because you can solve the problems that I'm having right now. I need to find somebody who can place people. I need to find somebody who can train people. So if you can, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, second page here, U.S. Army. We all know what the U.S. Army does. If you can, and I'll just throw this out here, if you can put numbers stand out, okay? So you'll see if you can get the numbers somewhere in the middle third of the page, that draws my eye in. I didn't see that 27 until I read the whole sentence, okay? I saw the 16,000 right away because it's right in the middle. So if you can move, interpreted, implemented retention policies and procedures, train 47 human capital professionals by leading and supervising or something.
Okay.
To get it to the middle, it's a little bit more effective.
Okay. Since all of these are prior, military experience, is the same company, do you think I should do it the same way you recommended earlier, as far as, it's the same organization? Just
if this is all U.S. Army from here on down.
Yeah, the second page down, yeah.
Yes, I would definitely put down, U.S. Army, 2012 to 2018. Thank you for your service. Put that up there as the first line right there, and then just list the program manager and then move the date 2016 to 2018 in parentheses, right in here.
Okay.
Right there, because that way it shows you were at one place for a long time and you got promoted, you got promoted, you got promoted.
Okay.
Okay. And then what you can do is you can just move, program manager, human resource talent management at Fort. I'm not going to try to say how you pronounce that word. I'll do Fort Hood. You can move this and put it right up here next, right up here next to management.
Okay.
To tell us where you did that at.
Got it.
Ansbach, Germany. I've heard of that. All right. And you've got a lot of really good, you've got details in here, which are really, really good. So, I mean, you're telling people what it is you've done. Master of Science, training in addition, Bachelor of Art, perfect. Certifications. So here's the first place you've mentioned what that is. So you may want to also, in parentheses, put down DE&I.
Okay.
Again, just because it could be a keyword match, and now you've got it on there twice.
Got it.
You've got both things there twice.
Okay.
All right. And then the last thing I would add a little section, because you've got room here on the next page. Tell me what kind of computers, what are your computer skills?
Okay.
What computer programs you've used, because that will make a difference. That will, that can make a lot of stuff. Anthony says on here, Maria have a lot of results, but wouldn't she want to bold the highlights of the results? I'm not a real big fan of bolding. I think if somebody's going to, what do you want to bold? I mean, she'd be bolding almost every sentence here, 15%, bolding this, bolding, I mean, what part of the sentence do you bold and not bold? So I really sort of have an issue. I have an issue that I really can't do that. I can't understand. I'm not a fan of bolding. I think she bolded her job titles. I think that's enough. But once again, you have to remember, I mean, I have to throw this disclaimer out there. If you show your resume to 10 people, you're going to have 10 different answers. You have to feel comfortable with whatever it is you're putting out there. If you're getting phone calls, you're doing the right thing. If you're not getting any phone calls, you maybe need to change something. So that's what I'll talk about, when we talk about, what works and what doesn't work here. So any questions? Anybody have any questions? I'll stop sharing for just a second before I close out with a few slides. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was actually at the last session. I worked on my resume a bit. What I decided to do was I combined my experience. So, for example, I worked for Texas Instruments for 13 years, which is obviously all semiconductors. And I went to go work for Verizon, and there I did a lot of customer service related analytics. And now I'm at a startup company called Proteantics, and it's also a semiconductor company.
Okay.
So what I did was I put my Verizon under a section called like customer service experience. And then I created a section called semiconductor experience. And then I have like both jobs listed there. And I did that because I didn't want to sound repetitive on my resume. And what I mean by that is in the semiconductor industry, when you qualify a product, there's all these analyses you have to do. One of them is called HTOL. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm doing HTOL analysis at my current job, and I also did it at Texas Instruments. So I don't want to sit there at Texas Instruments saying I perform HTOL analysis and then do the same thing again under my new company.
Well, so what you've done is you sort of created a functional resume. A lot of resume people aren't going to like that because they want to be able to see chronological order what's going on. If you've done the same role at 2 different companies, if that's in the job description, you're going to match a keyword search in a couple different places. That'll be a benefit for you. So by combining the 2 jobs, I think that you will probably, here's the whole key. If people are calling you up, it's working. If people are not calling you up, then you got a problem. You couldn't submit a resume like that on an ATS system because it wouldn't know what to do. It would confuse the ATS system probably.
Then how do you suggest not sounding repetitive?
Well, I think a lot of people in their job career have done repetitive things at different positions at the same company. I've managed people in 5 different companies. Okay, but what are the results? Just because I, was a manager, because I managed people and hired, fired, and all that kind of stuff. What does, yes, that happens every time. Do I mention it every time? Well, I sort of do. That I managed, 4 supervisors and 70 employees. That I managed 6 people. That I reported directly to the owner of the company. I mention that because people want to have a frame of reference of what it is you did at that company, and if it's some of the same things, that's fine. Now, if you're trying to get your resume down from 4 pages down to 2 pages, or, I think it's okay to go 3 pages if that's what you need to do. But, if it's in the job description, add it to the, make sure it's on your resume when you're filling it out. When you're hand delivering a resume, you're bringing a resume in for an interview, I would definitely, it can be longer than just 2 pages. So
okay,
I'd be glad to take a look at your resume if you want to send it to me.
Yeah, should I just email it to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna put an email address up here in just a second. You can, I'll be glad to take a look at it and just sort of give you a little bit of feedback. I would add, because of your name, I guess, how do you say your first name?
I really don't care. Some people pronounce it. Some people pronounce it Zorn. Some people say Zoran. I doesn't bother me. I get asked that during the interview, and I say you can just call me Z.
Okay, well, that's why I think on the top of your resume, next to your name in parentheses, you need to put down whatever you want to be called, or put out the phonetic spelling to make it easy. Because listen, when I call you up, I don't want to missay your name. Okay. As a recruiter, we're trying to do the right things. We're trying to make sure that we want to connect with people, and you could be offended that I mispronounced your first name. So, this is one of those things. And on LinkedIn, if you're not aware, on LinkedIn, if you use the mobile app on your phone, you can actually record your name so people can hear how to pronounce it. So for anybody out there, if you haven't, you've got a unusual name, Zorian, you've got the most unusual here. You won the prize today for that. It just may be something you want to do. But yeah, let me pop up my address here, and you can do this. If you were not able to download any of the if you were not able to download the resume, the one-page bio, the sample T cover letter, you're welcome to send me an email to resume@careerdfw.org. Let me know what you're looking for, and I'll get those documents to you in the next couple of days. I don't tend to check that. I'll check it out later this afternoon, and I'll check it out probably tomorrow. Otherwise, sometimes it could be a couple of days before I get back to that account. But just send me an email to that account. And Zorian, if you want to send me your resume there, I'll take a look at it and we'll be able to go from there. So if you need that, just do resume@careerdfw.org. CareerDFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We're going to do open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you would like to talk about. So if you have questions about your job search, tomorrow's the place to bring them. Questions about your resume, questions about interviewing, networking, what do you think the job market is doing? Whatever it is, bring those comments tomorrow, bring those questions, and everybody can go and offer their opinion and suggestions. Also, as I mentioned, in 2 weeks, not tomorrow, but a week from Friday, we're going to talk about the one-page bio. So if you don't have a one-page bio, which I consider an extremely important tool in your toolbox of job search, join us in 2 weeks for that. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be doing a presentation on LinkedIn for LinkedIn Tuesdays, how to present yourself like a pro. So come join us next Tuesday at 1 p.m. And then we'll have an interviewing session next Wednesday. And then next Thursday, being the second Thursday of the month, we will talk all about networking. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. I have over 420 videos currently up on the YouTube channel. So the easiest way to find it is click on playlist. I'll be uploading this one to the effective resume session. Just click on view full playlist, and on there you'll see a list of, in chronological order, all the different sessions we've had, and you go back and watch any one of those at your convenience. If you're new and are not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join our mailing list, please send an email to Career USA, +subscribe at groups.io. This will give you the opportunity to get an email once a day that has the topic of the day, the title of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. Getting the Zoom link of the day, that way, open up the email, boom, you can join us when our sessions get started. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. I'm a volunteer just like everybody else. What I've done over the last 14 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you in the morning. If not, we'll see you one day next week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.